This is Dueling Pistols, where history draws first and legends never die. No fluff, no filters, just raw stories of grit, blood, and legacy. Triggered by Black Flag. I don't know, man. It's a very outlandish story from my perspective, being attacked by wolves, but, you know.
It happened during World War I. The Germans and the Russians had to take a ceasefire and cap a bunch of wolves because they were jacking them in the middle, but again, middle of winter, nothing to eat.
Also, Siberia and North America are a little different.
Different critters.
Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Brian Call. And my co-host is my brother, Brent Call. How are you, Brent?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. So we are getting into the show right now. We're deep into Daniel Boone's life. We're coming toward the end of the book that we're going over. This book is called Boone, a Biography, written by Robert Morgan. And we just kind of left off with a wild chapter of Boone's life, where he is most famous for. He's the adopted son of Blackfish. He's Chautawi. He helps the people of Boonesboro establish the fort and fight off 400 Indians and some of the British.
And what does he get for all of his trouble? A court case.
A court case. They wanted to court-martial him for being a traitor. That didn't go. That didn't stick, but it did bother Boone a lot. He never spoke to Calloway again, who, basically threw him under the bus. Calloway, 18 months later, gets killed by Indians. And so here we are, resuming the story. Now, what kind of happens next, and I'm going to blow through a whole bunch of stuff because I'm not going to go into the details of it. It's a little bit tedious. But what happens is Boone sort of becomes a city man in a way, because as the settlers move to Kentucky and Kentucky starts to flourish and become a frontier, it's just a frontier outpost, then later it becomes a full-blown city. Well, as that happens, Boone becomes a legislator. He's kind of nominated to work in the county buildings or whatever. He is kind of a bit of a politician in that regard. He helps people get land. He walks around with the chain and he measures and plots and all that kind of stuff. And he has lots of financial problems and things don't go well. And the bottom line is Boone's not very good at city life and like, his personality just isn't suited for the sort of day-to-day monotony of civilian farming and building an empire in a city.
In my mind, I'm seeing
he feels just out of place. Yeah.
I'm seeing Ryan Lampers trying to become like a courthouse guy.
And he certainly is good because he's kind of good at anything he tries to a degree. Like he's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, but at the same time, he doesn't follow through with a lot of things. So when he gets granted land, he doesn't follow through making sure he gets to keep that land with all the right paperwork. And then other people challenge his claims and things don't go well. And Boone just isn't interested in that stuff. He's a man of the wild. And just over and over, this is a recurring theme with Daniel Boone. And Rebecca, she married Boone. It seems that she just loves her husband and wants to be there. She supports him in his adventures. He's definitely well respected across the board. He's kind of a legend at this point. And some writers come in and start writing his story, stuff like that. But now we're in a pretty wild time, okay? It's still the Revolutionary War. It's coming to an end a little bit. This is 1780 right now. And so you still have the British fighting the colonials and, George Washington standing his ground and all this kind of stuff going down. At the same time, there's all the Indians and the raids, but yet people are getting settled. And so that's kind of where we're popping in here. It's a couple years after the section of the book we just read last time. Okay. So it says, it was a time of increased violence along the Ohio River. Once a keelboat came floating down the Ohio River with every person on it dead. Benjamin Allen remembered. Found an Indian's fingers in it that had been chopped off.
Jeez, that is a boat.
So there's a lot of Indian raids going on. To answer successful raids by the British and Indians on Ruddle Station and Martin Station in Kentucky, it just says that devastating attacks on travelers on the Ohio River started to be a thing. George Rogers Clark organized an army of 1,100 in the summer of 1780 to return to Ohio. Crazy stuff's going on. It's chaos.
Are there still bounties for scalps
Oh, yeah.
at this point? So that's still going on? Okay.
Both sides fought with a fury many present had never seen. The Americans killed and took scalps and even ripped scalps from bodies in graves.
Whoa.
One witness reported seeing a woman's belly ripped open and her body otherwise mangled. After an intense and sustained battle, the Shawnees pulled back from Pequot, and Americans looted and burned the town and surrounding cornfields. So there's massacres. There's retaliation. It's Indian wars. It's British on English, on Indians. It's just everyone's in a war. It's bad chaos. The raids into Kentucky by scattered bands of Indians continued. In March 1780, Colonel Richard Calloway, Boone's old nemesis, had been killed as he attempted to build a ferry with his slaves for use on the Kentucky River near Boonesboro. He had escorted Henry Harebuyer Hamilton as a prisoner to Williamsburg, and while in the capital had secured the valuable ferry contract from the government of Virginia.
Is that a real name?
Harebuyer Hamilton?
Or was Harebuyer like a middle name?
That's a nickname the Indians gave him. Remember, Henry Hamilton is the dude.
That's what I thought when he said Henry Harebuyer Hamilton.
Yeah, he was the British soldier who governed
Harebuyer. Oh, that's an evil name.
Yeah,
far more insidious than I thought.
Because they paid him. He was paying them to scalp, paying the Indians to scalp. Remember, this is why they took them all to Detroit, because when Boone got captured by Blackfish, the Indians adopted Boone and a bunch of others, but the rest they sold to Hamilton. Okay, and then Hamilton, he basically, you got $100 per person alive, or $50 for their scalp, right? So that's Harebuyer Hamilton. So the locals have no love for Hamilton after that bounty was extended. Now, he was very gracious to Boone. I remember at Boonesboro, he had written a letter that Blackfish gave him that said, look, we'll give you all your money, we'll give you lands, all you got to do is switch sides and be part of the British Army, you know. So anyway, that's what happened. Is Calloway escorted him to the heart of the colonial military and capital of government of Virginia in Williamsburg, and in the town of Boonesboro in the county of Kentucky, across the Kentucky River to land on the opposite shore. The price for a man, 3 shillings, and for a horse the same. So he was ferrying people back and forth. He was getting paid to be the ferry. He was the main guy. It says, the keeping of which last mentioned ferry and emoluments arising therefrom are hereby given to Richard Calloway. It's a piece of paper that says he gets to be the ferry, the main ferry guy. His body was scalped and disfigured, thrown into a sinkhole. Hunters at this time were attacked in the woods almost daily. So the Indians got him.
That came out of left. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, they just killed him.
Wow.
And he was thrown into a mud hole. Much of the lore about Boone's resourcefulness had its origins in this period. In one of the best known tales, Boone is growing tobacco at his new claim at Boone's Station. As Peck tells the story, at a short distance from his cabin, he had raised a small patch of tobacco to supply his neighbors, for Boone never used the filthy weed himself. The amount perhaps of 150 hills. Some have said that Rebecca smoked tobacco in a pipe. It is late summer, and he is hanging racks of tobacco leaves high in his barn to cure when 4 Shawnee warriors appear below. Yes, Boone, we have got you again, they say. We carry you off to Chillicothe this time. Boone greets them warmly and tells them how glad he is to see his Shawnee brothers again. High on the racks above above them, he grabs a great armful of dusty, drying tobacco and hurls it down into their faces below. Stunned and blinded, the Shawnees cough and stumble, wiping the stinging dust from their eyes as Boone jumps down and runs to his cabin for his rifle. The old man, in telling the story, imitated their gestures and tones of voices with great glee. Nathaniel Boone, talking with Lyman Draper years later, discounted the story, saying that neither his father nor his mother ever used tobacco in any form.
Just let the story be. It was cool.
And that was a story that he told, that according to the writer that Boone told. But his son, his youngest son, is like, I'm not buying. That summer of 1780, Boone and a large party of men hunted deer south of the Kentucky River. This is just going to give you some ideas of what, put you in this period, what life was like. So many settlers had poured into Kentucky that cloth was scarce. They needed the deer hides to make buckskin clothes. One evening by the campfire, Boone warned that he heard or sensed Indians nearby. He quietly directed his men to roll up some of the hides they had taken in blankets and arrange them around the campfire, then hide in the trees with their rifles. All night they waited, and near dawn shots were fired, thudding into the blankets. They made decoys.
Smart.
Then the Shawnees rushed into camp with their tomahawks and were killed or routed by the hidden hunters. The ambushers became the ambushed. You live by the sword, die by the sword. What's funny is how does Boone sense them?
Exactly.
Maybe Jeremiah Johnson. Look, it seems that there are men. Look, he lived to be like 86 or something. Calloway didn't. It's either Providence. There's the hand of God guiding him for a purpose, or I just hesitate to ever say luck because I'm definitely in the camp of Boone was divinely put in place, like many founders of the nation were. But if let's say you don't subscribe to that idea, okay. Was it luck?
Yeah, still, even if you take that out of the equation, I'm still not going to say luck.
So skill, he's gifted, naturally just gifted, so he could just sense or feel or smell, or like Jeremiah Johnson, that's the legend of him. He lives to be an old man too.
I still don't like
He lives to be an old man, and the stories about that dude, he should have died 1,000 times. He's a warrior among He's like Conan the Barbarian. Jeremiah Johnson is a freak.
Yeah.
He's a freak. Like and I think a lot of the stories are apocryphal legend type stories, but they so many stem from some.
All of them though?
Not all.
What even if only half?
Yeah. And just by virtue of where he was when he was there, he was under the constant threat of being killed. Then by his demeanor, he seemed always willing to fight. Like, okay, like he didn't care if he died, it seemed. Just, okay, let's kill another Indian today. Like, look, just think about it. It's just food for thought. Just churn it about in your mind. Explain it to me. I don't know. But the man seems to have a horseshoe jammed really far.
He hasn't dislodged it yet.
It says that so they needed the deer hides, right? Anyway, the ambushers become the ambushed. While hunting by himself on Slate Creek, Boone was fired upon, and he jumped into the nearest thicket and worked his way downstream into a canebrake. Holding his rifle aimed at an opening where he was sure the Indians would appear, he was taken aback to see two warriors emerge from the woods. If he shot one, he could be killed by the other before he could reload. Pondering what he might do, he waited until the Indians were in line, one behind the other. Taking careful aim, he killed one and wounded the other, who dropped his gun and fled. Boone took the better Indian rifle and threw the other away. Since Boone later claimed he was sure he had killed only one Indian in his life, this story is probably not true.
Also, why would you throw away the lesser rifle? Like, why didn't you just take both? He picked but I'm saying, why would you throw away a rifle, period?
The stories about Boone continued to multiply. Boone himself told anecdotes and created anecdotes that became the stuff of legend. But stories about some figures spread and grow, are repeated and multiplied as naturally as honeysuckle covers a road bank. It is a phenomenon well known in all cultures and times. The things most of us do are forgotten, however novel or exceptional they may seem at the time. But for some, their every act seems to generate a legend that thrives like a seed in rich soil. At some point, whether the story is true or not, doesn't much matter. It's the color, the novelty, the twist that counts. The hero is mostly a name to which the deeds and exploits, qualities of character can be attached. The figure becomes a springboard for the folk imagination, for collective memory and record of a culture. In early American frontier history, the two figures who seemed to catch the folk imagination most intensely were Daniel Boone and John Chapman, or Johnny Appleseed.
John Chapman, that's new.
In both cases, the subjects were real historical figures who did many unusual things, but in the folk imagination, they quickly became symbolic, exemplars of deeds and characteristics a culture aspired to and wanted to be remembered for. The stories of figures like Boone and Chapman help keep a culture alive and help people remember who they are, or at least who they would like to be. One of the stories about Boone, rooted all too much in fact, occurred October 1780. Returning from Clark's raid into Ohio, Daniel and his younger brother Ned stopped to rest their horses loaded with game killed on the way home. While they paused in a meadow, Ned suggested they crack some walnuts or hickory nuts ripening in a grove nearby. Boone warned that this was a place where they were likely to see Indians. Ned teased at Daniel for his fear and began to crack nuts on a rock. While Ned was occupied, Boone saw a bear in the woods, followed, and shot it. Edward sat down to crack some hickory nuts. A bear came nearby them. Daniel took his rifle and ran and shot the bear. These are the words that were written. I can barely read them because they're all misspelled. Suddenly, shots rang out in the woods, and Boone realized they had walked into such an ambush as he had feared. Looking back, he saw Shawnees gathered around Ned's body. "We have killed Daniel Boone," he heard one of the braves exclaim. The legend was that even Rebecca said Ned looked very much like Daniel. Boone had no choice but to run and hide in a canebrake. The Shawnees sent their dog into the cane for Boone, and he had to kill the dog and fade farther into the brake. Lying flat, he watched as the Shawnees found their dead dog, cursed the thicket, and turned away. After all, why risk hunting through the cane when they had just killed the great Daniel Boone? Running all night, Daniel reached Boone's station by morning and without pause organized a party to return to the scene of Ned's death. As they approached the nut trees, they saw a wildcat eating Ned's flesh. Daniel Bryan later said that Ned's head had been cut off by the Shawnees as evidence that they had really killed Daniel Boone, but it is more likely they just took his scalp. Boone and his men followed the trail of the Shawnees all the way to the Ohio River, but it was too late. The warriors had already crossed. On the way back to Boone's station, Daniel and his son Israel and a nephew-in-law named Peter Scholl stopped near the Blue Licks to kill game for Ned's widow, Martha, sister of Rebecca, and mother of 5 children.
Ooh.
With the death of Ned, Boone assumed an even larger responsibility as head of the extended family. His many obligations as provider and protector no doubt made it seem even more necessary to add the profits of locating and surveying land to his income as hunter and trapper and farmer. And to his already multiple tasks, as soon as added, he became the legislator for the area. He was elected to represent Kentucky in the Virginia legislature when the session was convened the next spring. Can you imagine, though, there's not much talk about your younger brother getting killed. It's just like they just run back, try to kill the Indians that killed him, and then they say goodbye and they move on. This is a more, I think, natural human state, to be frank. It's not normal how sheltered and protected humans are today. It's not normal. It's not normal for this much prosperity, and all throughout human history, as far as we know. Mm-hmm. Unless you're talking times like the city of Atlantis, times that are mythical. We don't know, but maybe the world was just this this evolved at one point, and we blew ourselves up, and it came back again. Like, who knows? But the point is,
that's Joe.
Yeah. The thing is, though, you're sitting here and you're like, throughout all time, through human history, death and loss of loved ones, things like this were just life. And they rolled through it with a sense of grace. They lost her husband, and she's like, but I had a damn good ride while he was here. And they move on, and they get things done, and they make do, and they mourn the loss, and then they move on. It's like, we are spoiled today. People talk about PTSD if they lose a loved one. They can't function the rest of their life. They feel that they got wronged because a parent died when they were young. It's like, we're so coddled and spoiled, and we're told too that we're entitled to like happiness. Like, you're entitled to everything you want, and if you're not getting it, it's a violation of your human rights. You know, it's just absolute insanity.
People want to act like if you're not happy, then something is wrong.
Well, if you're not happy, something is wrong. That's a sign that you need to change something. You know what I mean? Like,
what I'm getting as being unhappy isn't like a bad thing.
Right. I agree. And I think you shouldn't medicate it either. Like, if you're not happy, okay, it's your spirit telling you, bro,
change.
You got to fix yourself. You can do better. You can be better. Generally, it's your conscience. It's something in you saying, the state that I'm in isn't right. I can do better. Right? Happiness is also not the right term that you want to strive for as a human being. I think you want to strive for purpose, for meaning. Like, meaning is something far, and Viktor Frankl wrote Man's Search for Meaning when he was a survivor of Auschwitz and Nazi Germany. That book I've read it like 20 times. No, maybe more. It's just a skinny little book, and I just read it over and over and over again. And in that book, the point is, there was a degree of people who could derive meaning out of a meaninglessness existence. It was intrinsic. It was inside you. Meaning is derived based on you deciding how you're going to live and striving to be the best version of what you can be. Like, there's something in that. It's like you carry the cross and you do the hard thing to be the better person, to be the best version of you that you can be. That's a personal challenge. That's not you against anybody else. That's just you. And like they say, you can take away my freedom, but you can't take away my freedom of thought. You can handcuff me, but you can't take away my will. There's something profound in all of that. And so these people, they go through these things, and I feel that they had a better understanding of what it means to be human than we do today, and what to expect out of life. And they're definitely much more faith oriented. So they didn't look at this life as the end all be all. This was one part of a spiritual journey that transcended death. And as soon as this was over, there was another journey to be had. The Indians felt very much a spiritual sense in the same way. Like, once this is over, there's another journey ahead. Many cultures in human history have all felt a sense of something out there that's, what does C.S. Lewis call it? The yaw, the unknown, I guess. The feeling that there's something more than what we can in the material realm, I suppose, than all the material things in front of us. But it just blows my mind, because his brother died, and Martha, his sister of Rebecca, and she's a mother of 5 children, and so on, and everyone just dies, and you never know when that day's coming for you, and they just roll on.
What, Brian? Let me pose a question to you.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a walnut so good that you would stop an Indian territory for?
Look, I
question that decision greatly.
Yeah. I mean, you could get attacked by an Indian at any time, right? Like, at some point, you see this in war, right? Like, you could get hit by the Chinese at any moment, like in Afghanistan, whatever. You could get hit at all times. I think there comes a time where there is like battle fatigue or a situation where you get complacent about threat because you're just constantly living with threat. And you're like, at some point, I just want to live my damn life. Can I have a walnut, Daniel? Please? Like, seriously, can I have a walnut? And then you get shot.
What I also love is
this is why I also say, I love that quote. I forget where I heard it. Maybe it was Jack Carr, but the paranoid survive. That's like my mantra. That's what I tell my kids all the time. They like mock me because I'm like worried about them driving, getting out. How are they going to defend themselves? What's the buddy system? But I constantly am saying the paranoid survive. You can call me paranoid. You can call me over the top. You can call me overly cautious. And I'm saying, yeah, I'll take that. I need a shirt. It says paranoid. The paranoid survive. Being paranoid is what keeps you alive. Remember that movie Conspiracy Theory with was it Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts?
That's gonna bother me. Anyways, tell me the story.
Well, he's like this conspiracy theorist, and everybody sort of dismisses him because he's crazy conspiracy theorist. He just thinks the government's out to get him and all this stuff, and he just thinks. But it's sort of like a clock is right twice a day or something, or at least once a day or whatever. He says, it turns out that, yes, he is crazy, but he's also not wrong. And I was thinking about that because, yeah, conspiracy theorist for sure, but he's paranoid, right? But for good reason. And it turns out that he wasn't wrong either, that things were going down, and what people were dismissing as crazy was real, and he was the only one brilliant enough to see it.
A little bit of hubris there.
It's pretty intense. I mean, Mel Gibson plays a nut job, and it's so good.
I like how he's like, we can't get the walnuts. There's a bear.
Boom. I know. Well,
it all goes out the window.
They split up, and yeah, it's interesting. Like, anyway. Who knows the details, exactly how it went down. This is the story passed down, right? But food for thought, life, like you said, the walnuts, like if you're paranoid and you're ghosting through cane breaks and you're cautious and you're looking over your shoulder constantly and you're only moving during certain times of the day when you're you live longer. But Daniel Boone just went after a bear. And it's like, why didn't Ned go with him?
They didn't give Ned a horseshoe when he was born, apparently.
Or maybe the loss of Ned was Ned had accomplished what he needed to accomplish.
Sure.
And at the same time, Boone had a ways to go, and this was a lesson that Boone needed to learn for what he had to do. It's like the story of Abraham and Isaac.
Gotcha.
I always am like, I think about that a lot. I put myself in that position. I think it's an ancient story, right? Bible over Old Testament, thousands of years old. What's it trying to tell me? And when I think about it, I often think Abraham needed to learn something about Abraham. God already knew the things about Abraham. This wasn't for God testing Abraham. This is for Abraham to learn about Abraham. God was letting Abraham grow. God already knows what Abraham's going to do. Abraham didn't know. It's almost like time travel. Like you can get yourself real twisted up.
Yeah, you can't.
In theory, like, wait, what? So anyway, it's just some of the things that go on in my head. All right, back to the book. It says, okay, so this is what happens next. When the Virginia legislature met in Virginia, and he was the legislator, not colonial Williamsburg, they went to Richmond. The session opened up May 7th, 1781. So early spring, late spring, I guess, early summer, late spring. But soon had to be adjourned as Cornwallis and the British Army were approaching the city on the James. The feared cavalry commander, Lieutenant Colonel Banastre Tarleton, or Bloody Tarleton. Is that how you say it? Tarleton? Tarleton?
I think it's Tarleton.
I'm going to say Tarleton. Bloody Tarleton. Was directed to capture the lawmakers. Tarleton had made his reputation in the Carolinas where he never took prisoners. Tarleton's quarter, the Over Mountain men, had shouted at Kings Mountain October 1780, meaning we won't take prisoners either. Okay, so he didn't take prisoners, so they started saying, yeah, we won't either. You start killing all our prisoners, we'll start killing all your prisoners.
That's always a great move. An eye for an eye, Brian.
I mean, what do you expect, Tarleton? That's what I'd do. I mean, I wouldn't want to. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of, you have your nice people who are like, I mean, it's a tough one, right? I actually can't say that I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But there is a part of me that's so pissed off that you escalate like that, I escalate back. That's generally my rule.
Mm-hmm. I match people.
Because
you go here, I go here.
Otherwise, the adversary will just take. There's no consequences for their actions. Yeah, but then also you have a bunch of men who are 19, 22 years old who are just sucked into this war because leaders made them do it, in a sense, right? They're fighting for their country. They're not bad people, and they surrender. Should you murder them all? Like, that also seems terribly immoral to me. Tarleton's a bastard. As Tarleton and his dragoons approached Charlottesville, the legislators slipped away to the west. Boone and a friend from Kentucky, John Jouett, stayed behind to save some of the horses. Horses were much sought after by the invading army. As Boone and his friend rode away from Charlottesville on June 4, 1781, this is about a month later, after they had arrived, they were overtaken by a unit of dragoons. Dressed in his hunting clothes, Boone was not suspected of being a lawmaker and chatted several minutes with the commander, possibly Tarleton himself. When they came to a fork in the road, Jean Jouett, his buddy who stayed with him to get horses, hoping to get away from the British, thoughtlessly said, "Wait a minute, Captain Boone, and I'll go with you." And they were immediately arrested and put in prison.
I would kick his teeth out.
Because clearly you don't need them. Good Lord. Just shoot me next time.
Some people are just
here's the deal. There's people that, here's the deal. Lying is important. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. At some point, you have to say, no, there are no Jews hiding in my basement. You have to be able to do that, okay?
Yeah.
And there are people that you just know you can lie to a cop right next to, and they're going to jump on it, and you know it.
Yeah.
And then you have other people you're like, please just stay away from them. They can't handle this. Oh,
it's true. I think you have to be a dangerous person. And if you're a dangerous person, then you're capable of capable of lying.
Yeah.
If you had to.
Look, there was times in high school
deceit,
where depending on who I got caught with, I knew I was going to be able to get out of the situation, period, because I could lie my way out of it, depending on who was with me.
Well, it looks like Boone was killing it with his hunting clothes on, doing it like whatever.
Nailing it.
And then John comes over and blows.
First of all, why you call me Captain?
Seriously,
just
dude.
Boone.
Boone was kept under arrest for a while with other local officials and then given a parole. One story is that he was locked in a coal house and passed the time by singing, as he had often done alone in the wilderness. Colonel William Preston wrote to John Floyd on June 17, 1781, from Fort Chiswell, Virginia, that Boone had been taken prisoner. In any case, Boone was let go in a few days, and there has been a good deal of speculation ever since about why he was released so quickly. His descendants said Boone had to swear an oath to never take up arms against the crown again. Detractors have pointed to the oath as yet another example of Boone's willingness to cooperate with the British when it suited him, evidence of his opportunistic, wishy-washy character. Others have suggested it was Rebecca's loyalist relatives who got Boone released so quickly. Nathan Boone, our best source for many aspects of Boone's life, merely said, quote, "My father was conveyed to the British camp and put into a coal house. He very probably explained his title of captain by referring to his old Dunmore commission. My father also may have pretended contentment and sung songs while confined."
Just hanging out, having a good time.
Yeah, just harmless.
Yeah.
Just a harmless singer. Just a woodsman. Yeah, I was a captain back in Dunmore days. I'm nobody now.
That was what, like a couple of years ago?
They just liked him. And
okay, it seems
dude,
like
you ought to be able to sing. He's charming. I mean, he has to be.
Oh,
which is why so many people liked him.
Charisma, bro. He's charismatic.
Someone hearing the story in the 19th century would have thought of Paul and Silas, described in Acts 16:25, as jailed for preaching and singing hymns in chains until an earthquake shook down the jail and freed them. Boone was reimbursed for his trouble and attendance of the legislature 2,900 pounds of tobacco.
Dang.
That was not by the British. That was
That's just a lot of tobacco.
By the colonial side. By June of 1781, Lord Cornwallis's campaign was beginning to fall apart. Morale was low in the British Corps, and he was running out of men and supplies. The British were in no condition to take more prisoners. The oath was probably understood as a mere formality on both sides. As soon as he was released, Boone rejoined the legislature, where he had reconvened with Staunton. There's no evidence that Boone was a very active or effective legislator, especially at this time.
I'm just dumb.
He was out of his element in committees and long meetings conducted according to parliamentary procedure. He was awkward at the deal-making and exchanges of favors, which were the very essence of political success. He would never become an effective politician, as some contemporaries such as Isaac Shelby and James Robertson would. And he was anything but a backroom man or a lobbyist. He returned to Kentucky for the summer and continued with his farming and surveying.
That's my kind of politician. Reluctantly there, out as soon as he can, doing his regular job.
Yeah, whatever his contribution to the process, Boone must have been aware of the impression he made on the other legislators. While others wore fine coats and silks in the company of Thomas Jefferson, Boone wore his hunting clothes, appearing to some more Indian than he did white. "I recollect very well when I saw Colonel Boone," John Redd told Draper. "He was dressed in real backwoods style. He had a common jeans, rough twill suit with buckskin leggings neatly beaded. His leggings were manufactured by the Indians."
Nice.
Returning to the assembly in the fall, Boone came by way of Pennsylvania and stopped in Ole to visit relatives he had not seen in decades. He was probably in no hurry to join the lawmakers, and when he did arrive in Richmond, he stayed away from the meeting so often. J.P. Hells tells us the speaker gave him an order that the sergeant at arms attending the house take in custody Daniel Boone. It seems likely he was out hunting instead of sitting in the chamber.
Good man. I'm shocked.
Shocker. That's what I do too. Daniel and Rebecca's last child, Nathan, had been born that March in 1781. It was Nathan who would live far into the next century and spend 3 weeks talking with Lyman Draper about his father. Nathan's wife, Olive Van Bibber, would also add valuable information to the interviews. The story is that Nathan was born when Boone was away, and several other babies were also born in the Boone family. Asked if he could identify his own baby, he picked out Nathan. That's fine. By the time the Virginia legislature began its session that fall, Cornwallis was trapped on the peninsula at Yorktown. And began a siege. The French Navy blocked the Chesapeake, preventing the British Navy from coming in to his rescue. Cornwallis surrendered his forces on October 1781. The main campaign of the Revolution was over, but there would be continued action in the South and New England and bloody fighting in the West, especially in Kentucky, before the treaty was signed in 1783. So this is still 2 years from that time. Apparently defeated in the former colonies on the Atlantic, the British had no intention of giving up their claims to the interior, the Ohio Valley, and forts such as Detroit. They still controlled Canada and could send their forces south across the Great Lakes anytime they chose. And they still had powerful Indian allies in the Shawnees and Mingos and Delawares and Wyandots in the region. The war in the West was far from over. In fact, 1782 proved to be Kentucky's year of blood, one of the deadliest in frontier history. The violence in the Ohio Valley escalated early in the year and never let up. In March, a party of Pennsylvania militia crossed the Ohio in retaliation for Indian raids and attacked the Moravian Indian settlements of Gnaddenhutton, Salem, and Schonbrunn, killing 90 to 100 unarmed men, women, and children. 100 unarmed men, women, and children. Those Indians had been converted by the Moravians and were pacifists. Colonel David Williamson led the raid, and one explanation for the brutality was that he and his men saw an Indian woman wearing a dress that had belonged to a white woman killed in an earlier Indian attack. As Neil O. Hammond describes the event, on March 5, 1782, Williamson and volunteers from Pennsylvania rounded up most of the missionary Indians in the area and confined them in some buildings. The next day, the mission Indians were taken out 3 at a time and executed with mallets or clubs. 29 men, 27 women, and 34 children were murdered. After those at Gnaddenhutton, which means huts of mercy, were killed, more Indians were brought from the village of Salem and executed. The massacre at Gnaddenhutton was one of the worst atrocities of the Revolutionary era and set off a new round of retaliatory raids from the Ohio tribes. Within days, an army of Wyandots attacked Estill's station in Kentucky and captured a girl and the slave named Monk Estill. They killed the girl in front of the stockade and took Monk prisoner. Monk Estill is a well-known figure in early Kentucky history. When the Estill family first came to Kentucky, they lived at Boonesboro. And Boone knew James Estill and his family, a monk there. James Estill, Monk's owner, was away when the kidnapping occurred, but as soon as he returned, he organized a party of 18 men to pursue the Wyandots. The posse caught up with the Indians at Little Mountain on March 22nd, 1782, and fought an intense battle that lasted for 2 hours. Monk shouted to his owner that 25 Indians opposed the whites. Estill split his force into 3 groups to complicate the attack. He and 6 others were killed and 7 wounded.
Estill died?
No, his owner.
Oh.
James Estill died. Monk Estill, who's the black slave, did not die. He and 6 others were killed. Approximately 17 Wyandots were killed. Monk escaped during the battle and carried a wounded man all the way back to Estill's station 25 miles away. For his valor, he was freed by the Estill family and lived a long life, noted for his orchards, and later his son became a well-known Baptist preacher.
His son, Jerry, was the first African-American born in Kentucky, and Estill was the first freed slave in Kentucky.
Yeah, it says in here, Monk Estill was very likely the first black man, free black man in Kentucky. One of 4,000 African Americans estimated by Filson to reside in Kentucky in 1784. Crazy. It says that in June of 1782, another American militia returned to Ohio to avenge the many Indian attacks across the Ohio River, led by Colonel William Crawford, who had worked as a scout and surveyor for George Washington. And the force of 500 was lured deeper into the interior and defeated by the Indians on the upper Sandusky River. It says that okay. In June of 1782, another American militia returned to Ohio to avenge the many Indian attacks across the Ohio River, led by Colonel William Crawford, who had worked as a scout and surveyor for George Washington. The force of 500 was lured deeper into the interior and defeated by the Indians on the upper Sandusky River. That's 500 soldiers taken by the Indians. That had to be a lot of Indians.
Yeah, how do they get it? Does it say how many Indians there are?
It doesn't. They were defeated by the Indians, though, on the upper Sandusky River. So Colonel William Crawford, well, I mean, that's a lot of soldiers, dude. I don't know what happened. Crawford was taken prisoner and tortured along with a surgeon named Dr. Knight. Crawford, Dr. Knight, and 8 other prisoners were taken to Half Kingstown on the upper Sandusky on June 10, 1782. Simon Girty was among the party of Indians and promised to help the prisoners. He was the half white, half Indian.
Gotcha. I remember the Girty. Girty stuck out.
As it turned out, Girty was unable or unwilling to aid them.
Girty.
On June 11, all the captives were painted black, sign of a death sentence, and 4 were tomahawked and scalped. The rest were then taken to a Delaware town nearby, where all but Dr. Knight and Colonel Crawford were killed by women and boys. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a fire was made, and Dr. Knight and Colonel Crawford were beaten by all present and bound to separate posts. Speeches were made, reminding those present of the Gannatan Hutton massacre, and Crawford's ears were cut off. Then the Indians took turns prodding Crawford over his naked body with burning poles. Women threw live coals on the ground and made Crawford walk on them. Crawford begged Girty to shoot him, but the white Indian laughed at him. After 2 hours, Crawford was pushed face down into embers and scalped. An old woman threw coals on his mutilated head, and he was made to walk around the post as the Indians jabbed him with burning sticks. Dr. Knight was taken away, but later reports said that after Crawford was unconscious and could not be revived for more torture, he was roasted over the fire. The British loyalist officer Captain William Caldwell, who was present at the torture, wrote to his commanding officer at Detroit 2 days later, "Crawford died like a hero. Never changed his countenance, though. They scalped him alive, then laid hot ashes upon his head, after which they roasted him by a slow fire." Accounts of the torture of Crawford inspired even greater rage and fear among the residents of Kentucky.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
The fury of the Indian attacks increased, and with experience, the raids were conducted with added cunning. In August 1782, a small party of Indians attacked Hoy's station and captured 2 boys. It was a diversionary raid to draw the militia away, while the main force of Indians made their attack elsewhere. Captain Holder and a company followed the party with the kidnapped boys and were defeated on August 14, losing 4 men. How many times are these suckers going to fall for this? Meanwhile, Boone was organizing a force from Fayette County. Holder's group returned and reported their losses, and Boone realized things had taken a very serious turn. There you go.
Jeez. I'm not a fan of torture. Not really. That's where I kind of tap out on stories or movies and books. I'm not a fan of that. I just can't. There's just nothing in me. I don't like seeing it. Don't like thinking about it.
Well, these things that's like real life, you know. I mean, that's how it goes. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty sad what happens there. I think that it paints a picture of what you're dealing with. The vengeance that each group, tries to exact from the other, the intensity, what they're fighting for. I think they lose sight of any purpose at some point. It's just to make someone pay for what they've done, It's heavy, dude.
It's heavy.
I mean, what they did to Crawford, I can only imagine the pain, torture, misery, whatever is going through this thing. I mean, the other one's killed by women and boys, and they're pissed. They're pissed. What happened? I don't know the story there. It's a lot of soldiers to just lose to Indians. It
also feels like, I guess we did kind of jump forward a couple of years, but that the hate and the malice greatly escalated.
Oh, for sure. You're talking about, it's a combination of factors, right? It's a bloodshed war region right now. You got the British doing dirty deeds. You got the colonial, the settlers, and then you have the different Indian tribes, and they're all going at each other. Yeah, and it's hit a bloody stage of just vengeance. And
because when he grew up, he was kind of friends with the Indians, and then they kind of played tricks on each other, and like there were some violence and stuff still in there, but it was still just like a few years ago.
Yeah, 2 years.
It's
back.
great. 2 years.
Yeah, you're talking things go south pretty quick as everything escalates. But think about it. The whites had murdered 100 pacifist Indians that were missionaries. For why?
They were mad.
And they executed them with clubs.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't even firing squad, like a club? Really? That to me it's just brutality. So I mean,
it's one thing to dispatch of a human being.
Now I don't know that Crawford was the one who instigated that. Did it say who was the one behind that massacre? Williamson and volunteers from Pennsylvania rounded up the Indians. Colonel David Williamson. So was he British or English or a settler? I think he had to be one of the colonial. Yeah. The British at the time were in cahoots with the Indians, generally speaking.
Found this picture of this dude who got scalped when he was a kid.
Oh, yeah, you saw me showing that picture. It's wild.
Yeah, dude.
It's wild.
I'll throw this picture up for those that are watching, but it's horrific. Dude got scalped when he was a kid and survived.
Watch your head.
Dude, what cracks me up is like some dudes never say die when it comes to hair on their head.
Yeah.
Like, give it up, bro. Like,
but back then it was an awful lot of work to try to keep it shaved. You look like Frankenstein anyway, because you put a hat on, cowboy hat.
Yeah, then you take the cowboy hat off and people scream.
You don't take the cowboy hat off.
Ever.
That's the rule. Yeah.
Ever. That thing is glued on the top, bro.
Or if you just want to scare people, you just take it off and drink your whiskey.
That's true, dude. If some dude came up to the bar, took his hat off, and that was there, moving seats away. Okay, I'm not sitting next to him, not saying howdy do.
That's right. I remember that. I got my teeth knocked out in a basketball game, intramural basketball game in college. These front two.
Mm-hmm.
Knocked them right out. And they're fake. This one right here and here. And it took about a couple of weeks before I got them totally fixed.
They had to run around like that?
All I had to do was smile at people. People just moved out of the way. They just looked at you and they're like, yeah, that guy's trouble. That guy's dangerous. That guy's a threat. There's something not good about this guy. All you had to do is look at people with crazy eyes and give them a smile, and they moved out of the way. That could be in your car, just out the window, like anywhere you wanted. So it definitely, there's some things that just speak to you as a human. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying the show, folks. Don't forget, if you like the show, you can help us out just by sharing it with your friends. Like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment in the video section. Leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. All that. It's all helpful. It's all good. We appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. Hello, friends. I hope you're enjoying our new Dueling Pistols podcast. Remember, it's only here temporarily on the Gritty channel.
Short time.
If you want to subscribe to the main show, head on over to our YouTube channel, Dueling Pistols, and subscribe over there. And anywhere that you get your podcast, you can subscribe there. Thanks for supporting us.
We're on all platforms.
Yeah, we're out there. Find it over there. And tell a friend.
Yeah.
Tell a friend about our new show.
Tell all your friends.
Help us grow it bigger. We're just going to turn this to an ASMR. All right. Thanks, guys. Catch you on the next episode.